Hey, Amnesia here. I wanted to make a quick video about how our guild marks the GBG map, why we do it, and then spend some time walking through the map for this season just to give some real world examples of it. So first off, we have this section in our guild threads which talks about called GBG markers and notes. It's a self-explanatory, but we use our notes, our markers a little different. So the flashing sign means we wanted to take a sector. The hand means we wanted to hit up to 150 out of the 160 and hold there. And then the other thing is that we want no mark, no hit. So this is different than a lot of guilds use. Inno itself uses the hand and calls it ignore. So something like the hand, a lot of guilds use as no mark, but a lot of guilds also take the flashing sign and then put a hand on it. So in our view, rather than having the hand mean both stop at 150 and stop at 0, we want to use the hand at stop at 0 at 150 and no mark, stop at 0. So it allows us to have a third marking convention, but that doesn't require a general to be online and change the flasher to the hand. So that's why we do it. When the maps start to speed up, having this marking convention allows the map to be the sole place that the guild generals can communicate and that the players can read what they want to do. So having been in other guilds in other worlds, this is a very abbreviated and efficient way of communicating on the map that does not require you to go out of the map, read what someone wants to do, and then go back in the map and slow yourself down. Oftentimes, those extra seconds that you would have to go and say, like, oh, do I have to take this sector or not take this sector? That's what causes you to lose a race. And so if you multiply those extra seconds across 15 or 20 people, you lose races. So this is, the world we're in right now is on the slow side as treasuries build up, but it will speed up and be a very exciting, fast-paced world probably within the next year. And so we want to have our guild members learn what we think is the best way to read a map, and our generals to learn how to mark a map, so that when it gets really competitive, we are right there at the top of the competition. So let me walk through this a little bit more on the actual map. And in this case, let me go to our things. We're using, instead of rotating around the map and, like you would on an older server where you have guilds with big treasuries and sort of deep, experienced, well-developed cities, in this world, there are not that many Diamond League guilds. The treasuries are on the small side. The production certainly is on the small side. So we use what is called these base camps. And so this is sort of the agreed upon basis for this season. Our guild this season is in purple. The other guilds are in yellow, green, red, etc. You can see that. And the goal is to sort of flip these white sectors as quickly as possible between the guilds that are adjacent to them. So you can see in some cases, A2A, for example, has two camps on it. E2A has 2 camps on it. So in our case, we're going to have 4 camps facing F2A and X1X there in the middle up to every 4 hours. And so we want to flip those ones as quickly as possible. And that's kind of the goal of it, is to have guilds with as many camps facing sectors so that they can flip things as quickly as possible and not have to use a big rotation where guilds don't have the goods. So in this case, I drew a map just to kind of point, if you were looking at this map, which ones are our base camps. I put the B's on them, but we have base camps that are kind of in this weird little pattern through the middle of it, but it allows us to get a lot of hits off of those ones. So I'm going to go back to the map in the game, and we're going to look at something here. So let's just make sure, get back into the game. Now, one of the things that we talked about, what do other guilds do that is really, really inefficient, right? So a lot of times you'll see a guild mark this. I'll mark an F5B, which we don't have to touch. They'll mark this, and we'll write somewhere else, take F5B to 150 and stop there. But also, it relies on somebody when it gets to 150 to change it to there. And what happens a lot of time? people see this and people see that flasher and they just kill it. Or, or it's not marked and people just think they can go hit it and they just take it. So what we're trying to avoid is having to have people sitting around marking these maps and having to change these signs. And if we know in advance that we want to take a sector, let's just mark a take. If we know you want it to stop at 150, we're going to put the hand over it. And it's as simple as that. It's about having less sort of communication and really the need to be online exactly at the point when something gets to where we want and put the hand sign on it. Now, Inno says this is ignored. So I'm going to come over here to C3A, which is one we have marked that isn't filled. And so it says, tagged is ignored. So what do you do? So if you sit there and say, okay, and you hit it, well, it's kind of a pain because then you've got to come back, hit it again, ignore. So there's actually a very easy way to get around this. And so you go into the settings, I'm hitting the settings, and then you come down to the confirmation window. And then down at the bottom, battlefield, ignore, tagging, confirmation. You just hit that one, come on out, and I'm going to go back to C3A, and I don't get that ignore thing. So once you've done that, that takes away that annoyance of that, Inno says this is ignore, I'm confused. That gets rid of that problem. So that's an important thing to do. So let's just kind of walk around this map, and let me just give you a sense of how things look. So if you remember, we kind of had this zigzaggy line from here. This one's a base, this one's a base, this one's a base. And the goal is basically to flip these high support sectors as often as possible. And so from here, the ones that are surrounding, these are kind of our best ones that are around these bases. So these are the ones that I just marked that we're going to want to flip as quickly as possible. And most of the time, they're going to have these flasher signs on them unless some guild wants us to hold on to them for a short amount of time. And then what will happen is that a lot of times we take one of these sectors. So F3B, this isn't the best example, but F3B is adjacent to these two sectors, F4B and FE4C, that are 2 away from a base. So if we put any hits on these two sectors, then when F3B is flipped again, and then when F4C is flipped, the flags get erased. So we have these ones marked over here that we've loaded earlier today, and they got flipped, and we marked them again so that they can just be up there. This flag at C2A, that's going to be destroyed the second that C3B is flipped by one of these guilds. So that's a great thing, is because we can take one sector, build a camp or two, and then go and get some more off of it. So that's what we're trying to do there, and why. And so we do our best to try to announce when interesting things are going to open and happen, but the reality is we also need people to kind of look at these things and note when they're going to happen. And in this case, our next good sector is this one over here, F2A. And so with F2A, we are going to probably hold on to that. We'll let these guys over here, but that opens in 8 minutes from the time I'm doing this. And so you've got to kind of watch the timers on these sectors and see what's opening. So in this case, E2A, which has 2 camps in it, is facing E3A that opens 2.5 hours. It does take a little time to look around. In this case, there's really only one sector that's open right now that we can hit. We can hit this one next to our base with no support. This one over here opens in 8 minutes. It's actually a great sector. We'll call that out using our Discord and put a note in game if we can. But let's just talk about what happens when you make a mistake and just hit the thing that ever you want. So you may look at this and say, all these things just don't, they have hands, I'm not supposed to hit it. No, they have hands, which means we want you to put it at 150. And so we had a player who was hitting this sector over here because I think they were confused about it. So what actually happens when you hit another guild's base is that people go absolutely batshit crazy. And so just to give you a sense, I took the screenshots from the other day when this guy, King Thelonious, in this other guild at 7:50 in the morning, just went bonkers and went on a rampage. This is what, 13 messages, 17 messages over the course of about a half an hour, talking about how much we suck and why we're hitting him, and honestly going crazy over nothing. But the reality is we have to deal with that stuff. And so for somebody to come and get 121 hits and for us to have to go and deal with that kind of hassle, that's why we don't want people hitting spots that aren't marked. So, people get very, very sensitive about this. And so just please be careful. That's why no mark equals no hit. But you think of it as kill those flashers, fill the hands, don't hit anywhere else, and you're going to do just fine. So thanks for listening to it. Hope this helps. Talk to you later.